Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Finally, we are back. Oh, the Game Over Pro Wrestling. It's good to be back in the host chair, talking some grappling. It's your boy Avry here, after a very fun, I gotta admit, a bit of a long Summerslam from Detroit, Michigan. Got a guest on this week. Got a guest on for the show. Is Kyle Cushman of The Score hopping on. Talk with me, Kyle. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Kyle? How are things doing with you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. It was it definitely was a long night of wrestling, but it was a fun night of wrestling. I'm happy to be on.
It was. It was a card that was a hard-hitting card, very violent card. A few swerves, and we'll get to those all in due time, as it was a very fun night out in Detroit, Michigan. So, I want to start off, actually, first of all, big thing I gotta start off with is we gotta pay some bills and thank our friends at Sports Interaction, because hey, they're a great sponsor for this podcast for Game Over. Get in on the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. Every hit, every shot, every goal from all your favorite teams and players, with competitive odds, the best live in play, and more ways than ever to get in the game, like Minute Madness, our exclusive game with so many opportunities to win by the minute. Download the app in Ontario, use the QR code you see at the bottom of the screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 plus, and please play responsibly. All right. Good stuff. So Kyle, hang on 1 second. Hang on. Also, our YouTube chat. YouTube, please. On my screen, for some reason, I'm not seeing Kyle on my screen. So, hey, YouTube chat. Let me know if that's showing up for you guys as well, too, because it might be a little bit of an issue on my end. If not, we'll proceed. Okay. Whoops. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think we got a little bit of an issue here. I don't think Kyle's on our screen here.
Can you still hear me at least?
We can hear you. Yeah, I
okay.
think YouTube can hear you. Yeah, for some reason, you're not showing up, Kyle. We're going to try and figure out what's going on with that. Okay, yeah, for some reason.
Hey, it might be better for the viewers if they don't have to see me.
Yeah, for some reason you are, I don't know what's going on, but for some reason your feed, your window is not showing up here. I'm not sure what's going on there with that, but I'm going to try and proceed the best I can. Oh boy. Uh-oh. We'll start. We'll try and proceed anyway. But I do want to start off by saying that first match of the night, I enjoyed quite a bit. It was Logan Paul and Ricochet. That was a high flying match. A very we saw the conversation between those two. We saw the animosity between those two, the stakes, and I love Logan Paul, Kyle, leaning into the fact that he is going to be that ultra heel. That's what your impressions of Logan Paul in this match, playing up the real heel vibes over the past few weeks here.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to lead with the Logan Paul Ricochet match, but I guess it makes sense with Logan having to catch the flight to Dallas for his brother's boxing match. So in retrospect, that makes a lot more sense. But that was a really fun opening match. It was exactly what you kind of expect between these two opponents, with maybe a little bit of a slower start, but getting into a lot of the acrobatic moments and things like that. And specifically for Logan, really leaning into the heel stuff in this one, and obviously sealing that with the finish. But some crowd work mixed in there as well, getting the crowd going with the boos and whatnot. And overall, a very, very fun match between these two, which I think we all expected with the handful of moments that we've seen between these two in the ring.
No, of course. And I thought it was so funny, too, just how Logan Paul, like a true heel, makes things personal before this match, goes in and, gives the assumption that we're going to be a nice, friendly match, good competition, and puts Samantha Irvin right in there saying, hey, after this match, she's going to say my name. I just love that classic heel persona of, I'm going to put your family involved in this. I thought that was great stuff as well.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of both mixed in there on the commentary as well, milking that a little bit. And yeah, it's the classic heel stuff. And obviously with Logan Paul and him being so inexperienced compared to everybody else in WWE, just kind of going in blind over the last couple of years. It's going to be some of the more either basic stuff or kind of the stereotypical stuff to get him going outside of the actual in-ring entertainment aspect. A lot of the promo stuff, and obviously is very foreign to him, and he's learning along the way. But some of the crowd work and some of the commentary stuff and the wives or fiancés and stuff mixing into the match just kind of adds that little bit that whether it's the realism aspect of it or just a little bit of fun, cheap heel stuff, it made the match and kind of the ending and stuff like that just that little bit sweeter.
No, it really did. And watching Logan Ricochet, because we all know how experienced Ricochet is. We've seen him win championships. He's been at this game for quite some time. But seeing what Logan Paul was able to do, because I remember when celebrities in the ring, I remember when it used to be a pretty cringe affair. A celebrity match wasn't good TV, wasn't fun watching a celebrity match. Watching guys like Logan Paul, watching Bad Bunny, they have taken towards wrestling like water. They have gone and say, you know what? We're going to truly dedicate ourselves to wrestling and not just come in once in a while. We're going to be at the PC and train and learn properly. I appreciate that because you see Logan Paul, who is athletic, he has a background in wrestling already, so he has a good base. But seeing him doing flips, doing Spanish flies, like celebrities of 10 years ago weren't doing that, Kyle.
Yeah, no, exactly. When it's a Logan Paul match, it doesn't feel like a celebrity match in the same way that a lot of the others do. It feels like it's a legitimate wrestling match, and it just happens to be somebody that's popular because of means outside of wrestling. And yeah, every Logan Paul match I've seen has been very entertaining. Obviously, it's a bit kind of more the spot fest type stuff instead of some more like typical wrestling matches and stuff like that. But there's a place for that kind of stuff, and there's a reason why people are drawn to it. And he's excelled in that role. And matching him up with Ricochet was a great idea because, like you mentioned, that's a very experienced person who does a lot of the high flying acrobatic stuff. And I felt like their two styles meshed well. There were a couple of moments where there were a couple iffy spots, but other than that, I thought it was a really fun overall matchup that really got going towards the end of the match, and we had a lot of fun spots because of it.
No, it was great. It was probably for me for this year in terms of pay-per-views this year. It was for me probably my favorite opening match to pay-per-view. It was probably my favorite opening match this year, and I'm seeing just the push of Logan Paul. I know his personality in many ways has turned people off. He's not a guy that people, in wrestling away from want to cheer for. But I gotta respect his hustle, and he's the kind of guy where I could see him again being in a match for either a US title or an IC title. He's the kind of guy I could see, if not winning a belt, in contention for a belt a few more times.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you look at how quickly he stepped in here and been a very good performer in ring, just because of that just outrageous athleticism he has and some of the background in some combat sports at least, and being able to draw from that. Yeah, like it's easy to forget that this is only like a couple of years that he's been into this. And as he continues to gain more experience in this realm, whether it's something he starts devoting more time to or kind of stays on this kind of current schedule that he's on, there's certainly a boatload of potential here for him, depending on how much time he actually does want to devote to the WWE side, because I think that's ultimately what decides whether he ends up holding belts or anything like that. But if he does kind of stay where he currently is, he's a very fun pay-per-view kind of draw in these kind of matches where he can be at the beginning of a card, he can be in the middle of the card, and you know that you're going to get a fun match with somebody experienced and get a decent crowd reaction, probably have a viral moment or two that we've seen over these past couple of years. And I'd be interested to see if maybe there's like 1 year down the road that he kind of devotes a little bit more time to it and see what kind of run they can end up doing with it. But at least for right now, what they've got going is a really, really fun thing for these kind of pay-per-view spots. And like we saw tonight opening Summerslam with a really fun event.
No, of course, it was amazing. And also, too, of course, I keep mentioning the heel factor of him, but seeing this way this match ended, typical tactics. He gets his boys to bring in Brass Knuckles, knocks out Ricochet. Like, people are going to keep on watching him against babyfaces because, again, people like seeing or want to see Paul brothers lose, be it Jake or be it Logan. people want to see a Paul brother lose a wrestling match or a boxing match. So he's gonna have that factor as well too. It keeps going up against matches against baby faces in the company.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly an element to watching them get beat up or lose or whatever it is that people keep getting drawn to. Of course, in the night that we have both of them in big spots in combat sports. But no, the only gripe I kind of had with this match was kind of the random person jumping from the crowd from Logan's kind of posse to hand off the brass knuckles. I don't know why you can have either somebody notable, whether that be a celebrity, somebody that's at least their face is known. The random person jumping over was a little bit odd to me, but other than that, I thought it was a really fun way to open up SummerSlam.
No, of course, yeah, that was easily a really, really fun match, open things up. And going from Logan and Ricochet to, again, we went to Cody and Brock 3, the rubber match between those two, and I've enjoyed all their encounters so far. I think it's, again, great storytelling. It's very old school storytelling, again, with the whole thing about how Brock broke, well, I'll say in air quotations, broke Cody's arm. Cody wearing an actual cast to the ring and going having a match with that. And I just thought those two, the style of those two has always matched up very well in the ring. Although the one thing I will say is that with that match, of course, Cody they did the win. I thought Brock's offense, I don't want maybe a little bit too long of Brock just beating on Cody, and then Cody gets back in it, and then Cody finds a way to beat Brock. But overall, I thought the idea of Brock Lesnar coming in mad, wanting to finish a feud, that's always been a fun Brock Lesnar because he goes into his bag of just unbridled violence. And maybe if it was less Brock just teeing off on Cody and more back and forth, would have been a better match to me. But Cody finishing this story with Brock, I thought was a good way to do it. And Cody getting the win. And also the fact that Brock and Cody stood in the middle of the ring, shook hands and hugged, and that was really Brock showing much respect he has for Cody. I thought it was a bit of a passing of the torch, I felt. But I thought that overall, that was a pretty good match, I thought, Kyle.
Yeah, pretty good, I think, is the way to describe it, where especially kind of in that early middle stage of the match where, like you mentioned, Brock was just kind of teeing off on Cody, got a little bit old quickly, especially with the repeated count outs, and that kind of went on for a little bit too long, in my opinion. I also don't really know why it was kind of the storyline of Brock trying to show mercy and go for a count out rather than just continuing to beat up Cody. But I guess you kind of go with the respect at the end and something along those lines. But overall, yeah, a fun matchup here where once the back and forth, we got that again. Like you mentioned, kind of this old school thing, which you kind of expect between these two, where Cody is kind of the newer school in a certain sense, but has so many ties to the old school. And then Brock is somebody that's been around for so long as well. A really good matchup and a really good way to kind of blow off this trilogy here. And I really enjoyed the recap video at the beginning, kind of showing kind of everything that these two have kind of been through over the last handful of months. And a lot of that playing into this match again with some of the arm stuff again, the Kimura hold back and forth. It was a really solid follow-up to the opening match where I think in normal circumstances, this might have been the opening match and kind of have the two big guys go off right off the top. But with Logan Paul, of course, needing to catch a plane right away and quickly, that ended up being the opener. But I think regardless, I think it ended up being a really, really good 1-2 punch with two very different styles of matches to kick things off tonight.
No, of course. And now it's interesting because for both guys, I'm not really sure where both guys go on from here because I think knowing Brock, I need to take some time off, go back to Saskatchewan, back to his fortress where no one ever sees him and his family for maybe the next 6 months. But I wonder now what the story goes for Cody now. Does he I wonder, does he go for a Gunther? Does he? Because I really do think the story for him culminates at WrestleMania 40 against Roman. But I was wondering in the interim now where he goes. Like, where do you think Cody's story goes now after the Brock trilogy, Kyle, in your mind?
Yeah, I think the Gunther shout is a really interesting one because it gives you something that you can go to for a little bit here. Cody doesn't need to win, but it also doesn't overlap with kind of your timeline building up for the next WrestleMania, where like Cody can take a loss in the short term, and that's perfectly fine because I don't think Cody would be somebody that you would look to kind of end Gunther's streak here and gives Gunther another big name to kind of have a feud with in the short term. So I do like that mention there, especially coming at it tonight and what happened later on in the card. So yeah, I think that would be a fun one because then you get Cody back in a title feud, get that going a little bit again. And then once that kind of wraps up, then you can start kind of your slowly getting into the end of year stuff and figuring out what you want to do for your build to the big WrestleMania, where we kind of all assume, although we assumed this year that it was going to be the one as well. So
True.
you never really know how it ends up playing out. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting shout there with Gunther. I think that would be a very fun one.
No, it'll be fun as well too. And one thing I noticed too with Brock and Cody, I was surprised knowing these two. I was surprised it wasn't a blood fest. Like just knowing how these two pay-per-views are, I'm surprised the ring wasn't just covered in blood from either guy.
I'm always here for a little bit of color. I'm not gonna lie. So
yeah, that surprised me. That match for the most part stayed. That one stayed pretty calm. And from that bout, going to the Slim Jim Battle Royal. I know my friends would text me saying, this is the match you go to the bathroom for. But I thought, on paper, it appeared to be the match you skip, go to the washroom, go get food. But I didn't mind the Battle Royal. I know it was all the mid-card guys who were in this. I thought it was fun. I always love that spot, Kyle, of trying to get the big guy out of the ring. I thought the fact you saw, 15 guys trying to get almost out and just him dominating until he got him out. I love the fact that the Giant can come in and clean up and takes a unified front to knock him out. I thought that was a great spot in that match. And it's one where we see LA Knight win. And once again, he remains red hot. I like what he does. I know he's a mix of Stone Cold and The Rock. But his personality is something that it endears me. I want to see how far he can go in this company, Kyle.
I was a little bit surprised that they actually gave him the win. In typical WWE fashion, it's usually you guys love this person, let's give them nothing. But no, I wish that there was at least like some kind of stakes to this win and they get some kind of shot or a trophy or something. The stakes list kind of just whoever wins it type thing was a little bit bland for me. But overall, the Battle Royal kind of was what your typical Battle Royale was. I was glad it didn't drag on too long. It was fairly quick considering how many people were in the match. You had a lot of kind of rapid fire eliminations, and then kind of the final two didn't last too long. Yeah. So no, it was decent overall. You got the big crowd pop at the end, which I think everybody was hoping to get and were excited to get. And yeah, in terms of the card overall, it definitely was a bit more of that filler, just get the advertisement in matchup. But I think they did well to go with LA Knight getting the win and kind of getting that nice big pop, even though there wasn't really any stakes involved in terms of going on and getting some kind of big matchup because of this win. It felt like a big moment because of who they gave the win to.
No, it really did. And again, much in the same way of Cody, I want to see what the plan is now for LA Knight, where he goes next, because it may not be for a while. But I think LA Knight is a guy you could see in that heavyweight title picture, or maybe a universal picture after the reign of Roman comes to an end next year, I think.
Absolutely. He, as long as he's as hot as he is right now, you can kind of go wherever with him and it'll be something big. I'm very interested to see what they do next with him, because the Battle Royale stuff has been pretty straightforward to do in this kind of short build here. With this win, I'm very interested to see if it's kind of the status quo with him, or if they kind of look to use this win on a big pay-per-view. Of course, not necessarily like the marquee match of the night, but it was the match that had the advertisement built into it. So I think that we could see something fun in the short term here with LA Knight, and I think a lot of people are hoping we see something in the short term here with him being so red hot as he is.
No, of course, and I got to point out the fact that the thing has been going on for years and no one noticed. I thought that was very funny seeing old WWE archive footage.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That was awesome.
Oh man, that was amazing. And going from what people assumed probably would have been the worst match of the night to what arguably was one that just felt really, really flat to me. Shayna, Ronda, the MMA rules match. And, I've always felt that MMA style matches or matches that are supposed to be quote unquote real shoot style matches don't work in wrestling. They don't come across as being that legit. They look very stiff and they look very awkward. And the MMA match with Shayna and Ronda, it was two people with MMA backgrounds trying to make it into a wrestling bout, and to me, it just didn't work. You could tell the crowd wasn't feeling it. The entire time that match felt dead, except for the fact that Shayna did catch Ronda with an actual legitimate kick to the head. That was a pretty real kick she caught Ronda with. But beyond that, the match really felt dead to me with Shayna getting the submission victory tonight, Kyle.
Yeah, and that's not really on the performers either. That's such a tough stipulation to kind of go in with, especially with their backgrounds, and both of them, obviously Ronda being a huge MMA star and Shayna having that background as well. That's a really tough stipulation because it narrows what you can do in the match so much, and it does kind of feel like, obviously, with the stipulation being MMA rules, it did feel like just a fake MMA match, and it's just not really something that's easy to get into, and it's not for everybody. There's this very specific crowd that I'm sure would have enjoyed that, but it definitely wasn't for me either. It's something where, especially when you look at Rhea Ripley getting cut and the Becky and Trish match getting cut from this card, it's like I think everybody would have rather one of those two matches in this spot instead of 10 minutes of fake MMA between these two. And I get Ronda's probably on the way out, and these two have had a really long feud and a long history together and all those things. But the MMA rules thing, trying to draw from their background, ended up being a bit of a downfall because of the very strict stipulation in this match. And there just really wasn't a ton for these two to do to kind of get the crowd into it, and kind of fell flat, especially with the rest of this card.
No, of course, yeah. I really feel this just should have been a generic wrestling match. If you want to do a no holds bar wrestling match, cool. But trying to do MMA match in WWE, like no matter what promotion, I've seen a lot of promotions try that before. I recall TNA doing it. I recall WWE doing it, and they all looked bad. They didn't look good no matter what promotion. I don't know why companies still try and do legitimate fights. They never look good.
Yeah, it's so tough to pull off, right? Like, it's one thing, like, everybody understands what wrestling is. It's fake fighting, it's predetermined, all that stuff. Like, we all get it. We're all in on it. But it's fun and entertaining because of the things that they do in the match. And when it's all stripped away, kind of the more fun or unique things, and it is kind of strictly just the MMA stuff, but not actually MMA, is just kind of this awkward middle ground where you're trying to do the one thing, but you're not also the fun thing that we're here to watch. And it's this awkward middle ground that just kind of ended up being what it was tonight, where it just kind of didn't really work very well.
No, it really it did not. And going from one match that was underwhelming to another match that delivered a match we wanted to see, a match that was going to be a guaranteed slobber knocker, Gunther versus Drew for the IC title. And wow, that was, I don't know what it is, like Drew and Gunther, these two always have good matches together. They're such good style matches for his tilt, and it didn't disappoint. Again, a hard hitting match, chops like nobody's business. I feel bad for Drew's chest and Gunther's chest. Like, tomorrow morning is gonna be hell putting on a shirt with the way those chops were coming in. But my gosh, that was a match in which Gunther retains. He's now 31 days away from being the Honky Tonk Man's record. And again, Gunther has proven, Kyle, like he is one of the all-time best IC champions. He gets it with that belt.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love all of his stuff and the physical chops. It's just awesome, and it was very fun to have another one of those tonight with McIntyre. And I wish I got a little bit more time. It ended up being one of the shorter matches of the night at like 13 or 14 minutes. I think if it got those handful of extra minutes that some of the other matches tonight got, it would have been even better. But yeah, it was a bit of a quicker one tonight. But it certainly didn't lack the violence that the typical Gunther and Drew McIntyre stuff does. It was very, very good in terms of the physicality of it. Like you mentioned, I don't know how they're going to put shirts on tomorrow with how bruised and bloody I'm sure their chests are going to be after all those chops. And that's exactly what we expect out of Gunther. And that's what we got again tonight. And yeah, they have an awesome thing going with him in the Intercontinental title. And yeah, I don't see that run stopping anytime soon. It's a great thing going with him. And I'm glad that they've kind of let him be what he's best at in kind of these physical matches in this very specific kind of somewhat older school style, because it works and it's really reignited this title to be a top tier thing.
No, of course, and it's funny because Gunther's style, I mentioned the old school style, is a thing that on paper you wouldn't think would work in this modern era, because Gunther works a very 60s 70s style of wrestling match. He treats wrestling as a true sport. You would think that style today wrestling wouldn't work, but it does, and he's more over than ever right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like we're talking about somebody that earlier this year went over an hour in the Royal Rumble, was in the final two after being a number one, has had some big spots in pay-per-views against fan favorites and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, and has consistently had some of the best matches on these pay-per-views doing this kind of physical older style, and it's super over. People love these matches, and specifically with him. And it's not something where you watch it and you feel like it's slow paced or anything like that. Like it feels, it's the kind of match that draws you in because of the physicality. And every chop you kind of wince and it draws you in more. They've got a great thing going, like I mentioned with him. And I'm interested to see where they go next, if they kind of keep this Sheamus and Drew McIntyre stuff kind of revolving, or if they kind of pivot and maybe bring in, like we mentioned earlier, potentially going to a Cody feud and going back to that kind of final duo at the Royal Rumble and maybe having some kind of feud there, because I think that would be a great way to go and just keep shooting Gunther up the card, as basically he's at the top right now with you when you look at his spots in pay-per-views and all this stuff and Royal Rumble spots and everything. It's tough to give him much more than he's already had, but I think a Cody feud would be a great way to go next, and I think would do really, really good numbers.
No, of course. I would before that. I would probably have one more Gunther and Drew match, or one more triple threat match.
Hey, I won't complain to more of that.
No one's complaining about that. I don't think anyone is sick of those three in the ring yet. I don't think anyone is sick of that yet. But I would say I would have loved to have had tonight Titus O'Neil on commentary again, because Titus on commentary WrestleMania, that was hilarious with those three. That was pure jokes.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. And yeah, you can't go wrong with that trio or this duo, just because of how well the styles mesh. Like you've mentioned, the physicality and the physique of Drew McIntyre and the physicality and physique of Sheamus and Gunther, who's actually slimmed down over these last couple of years, kind of looking maybe a little bit smaller than the other two, but still packing as much of a punch. There's such a great stylistic fit, and whether it's the triple threat that we got or one-on-one single stuff, any match that you get between these three is going to be gold, and I'm here for it on every card that they put it on.
No, of course, and so am I, Callan. Going from that match, another one that was interesting was Seth and Finn. They have their battle, and of course, it was the history between those two.
Yeah,
those of you who know Universal Championship, Finn beat Seth, but of course, that was a match where Finn had the shoulder injury, had to relinquish the Universal title literally a day later. And Finn has kept on bringing up the history of, you injured me, I want my revenge, I want to hurt you, I'm going to get my payback on you. And what I love about this, even going back to just the entrances, Seth gets his Mr. Petty on, comes out in the same gear of what he wore 7 years ago in the infamous match for the first Universal title. I love that pettiness of Seth, no matter when he's a heel or face, that pettiness and these callbacks to prior matches with his gear are so funny. And again, there's another match in which you saw right off the bat, it was Finn not just trying to win, but trying to hurt Seth. And you saw from the coup de grace, from the Larry bomb into the barricade, it was from day one Finn trying to settle this vendetta, which I thought was very compelling of a story there, Kyle.
Yeah, compelling is a great word to describe it. I loved what they had in terms of the storytelling of this match, of the history between these two at this event as well, going back to 7 years, and it being at this event where Finn Balor won and then got injured and had to relinquish the next night, and having the 7 written on his shoulder and everything like that. Like There was a lot of fun stuff that they did with that in terms of kind of drawing back to it, and of course the reverse spot where, like you mentioned, Seth got thrown into the barricade like that. And yeah, the ending and stuff was definitely back and forth, and maybe not how I expected it to go per se. Kind of drawing back to the way that the previous one finished in terms of the Damian Priest getting involved and kind of screwing Finn accidentally slash on purpose, potentially on depending on your perspective there. But in terms of the history between these two, I thought they did a great job before the match as well with kind of the video package outlining the history between these two, and then in the match storytelling as well, leading up to kind of the finishing sequence.
Of course, and Judgment Day comes in, and that's the thing in which you open the door now for what is Damian Priest going to do, because with Judgment Day
Yeah,
comes in, Rhea, Damian, and Dominic, and again you see Damian there as the Universal Champion. Sorry, the Mr. Money in the Bank, and said heavyweight champion. You're wondering what's going to happen there. Is Damian going to cash in now on the World WWE Championship? Like, you're seeing the seeds right now. You're seeing the anger on Finn towards Damian. You're seeing the seed being sown, not just for Damian cashing in, but also the turn on Finn. You can see it coming right there. You see what the storytelling is being told right there and then in that match, Kyle.
yeah, and it's something that they went to a little bit before, of course, with the previous finish between these two, and they go back to it again here. So, really doubling down on kind of that way that they're going between these two, and definitely kind of the where they introduced the priest thing in the distraction and Finn declining it, and maybe thinking that maybe we weren't going to go down that route for the end for the finish of this match, and then it ends up being involved. And the camera shot on Damien at the end of this match was awesome, and just the blank stare of, oh man, did that really happen again? Was awesome, and yeah, it's something where there's a lot of possibilities going from here. It can be something where Finn and Damien kind of have something where they end up turning on one another, or maybe mending those fences, or whether it's something where down the road Priest does end up cashing in that Money in the Bank on Seth. There's a couple different routes that they can go down, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they have doubled down here a couple of times now on this Damien and Finn not really being on the same page as to how to distract and try and get the win, and backfiring at the end of these things.
No, of course, yeah, it's interesting. It'll be fun to see where that goes towards the eventual Judgment Day breakup. That'll be fun to see where this
Yeah,
eventually does go. And before we get to our next match, I do want to talk about one match that was canceled.
yeah.
Becky and Trish not happening, canceled. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's a feud that we've seen push for a while with Becky and Trish, and now it didn't happen tonight. I thought it was interesting. I wonder what the reason will be, or is going to come out for those two not having a match in Detroit.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. Not just in terms of the female representation on this card,
Uh-huh.
and only kind of having a couple of those matches there, and one of them kind of being one that we kind of knew was going to be a bit of a dud there between Ronda and Shayna, and obviously the triple threat being amazing later in this card. But
Yes.
yeah, it was definitely a time thing, because they gave a lot of time to these matches, and I think that's good in its own right. But there's nowhere that you could have fit that's on the card somewhere, and Rhea Ripley being one of the hottest acts in the business, and her only appearance on the card being this 2 minute kind of spot, not even being the direct distraction. Like, I feel like we could do better than that with these two different feuds, or acts here between the obviously the specific match between Becky and Trish, and Rhea being one of the best things going right now, and somehow not being on basically the second biggest pay-per-view. Yeah, that's disappointing. And especially on top of that, having a video package early in the night, kind of
Mhm.
showcasing Becky and then the Trish stuff and all of that, and then not actually even having it on the card is definitely a choice. But man, you kind of make those arguments, and then you kind of look at the card and you're like, what can you cut to make room for it? And it gets a bit tricky. Obviously, the battle royal is something that a lot of people would look to cut, but if you have advertising that you kind of have to get in with this specific battle royale, there's not much you can do there. The Cody Lesnar stuff, obviously, you're keeping on there. Logan Paul, you're trying to get on your pay per views, and then you're kind of looking at basically Shayna, Ronda being one of the few things that you can actually look to try and cut because the rest are championship matches. So I understand in a certain sense why these two matches and specifically Becky and Trish got cut because they wanted to give time. They didn't want to rush things. I get all of that. But at the same time, there are certain decisions and time things that could have made at least a little bit of room to still get this on the card. But we'll see what they end up doing between this match. I think I saw that it's going to be in Winnipeg or something like that. So at least you'll get some Canadian audience there for Trish and that kind of stuff. But yeah, very disappointing not to have that match and then Rhea Ripley at all on this card.
No, of course, yeah, no, very disappointing. Thank you, Cheeto, for that comment on the match here in the SDP and chat. I appreciate the comment on that. And then going from the women's match that did happen, the triple threat match you mentioned, Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca. That was a great match. One longer bouts of the night. The champion Asuka comes into this match defending her title against Charlotte and Bianca. And I gotta say, the funniest thing I thought so funny was using Bianca's entrance for what was a blatant C4 advertisement. Like that's the synergy. Using Bianca with the blonde ponytail and now the yellow gear. That's good stuff. C4. That's proper advertising. That's proper product placement. Well done. Well done.
Get your money. Get your money.
I thought that was hilarious. And again, the one thing I will say, unfortunately, that this match came in towards the end of the card, so you could tell that the crowd was a bit dead. Like the crowd was a bit burnt out. This is a longer PLE event. How you could tell that the crowd was burnt out. Like there was some great moments in this match between the three of them, and the crowd was silent. So that kind of was a bummer in my aspect, Kyle.
Yeah, I went to an AEW event here in Toronto a couple months ago, or however long it is now, and you kind of don't really know the crowd burnout thing until you actually have experienced it. And that show was even longer than SummerSlam tonight, and you definitely feel it a little bit when it gets to the kind of the waning hours of the event. And even if it's a great hot match, you can only kind of be on your feet and cheering for so long before it's a bit of that burnout. And unfortunately, this match got a little bit of that and people trying to save themselves for the main event and stuff like that. But in my opinion, in terms of the in-ring and storytelling and outcome and moments of this match, this was my personal match of the night. I absolutely loved what the trio had going on. The injury scare for Bianca sold a lot of people. And then, of course, everyone loves a good Money in the Bank cash in as well to cap things off.
No, of course. You mentioned there Bianca selling the injury. And I thought that was great. Coming back to sell that. Coming back, she gets the win. I thought there was a lot of cool spots. The knee injury sell, the Charlotte stacking her body up. Like I find the stacking your opponents with each other and I think that's a very fun pinfall. Even for a false finish, I think it's a very cool show of domination from Charlotte to do a stacking your opponents on one another for a pinfall. And you mentioned right there, Bianca. She wins the match. She wins, gets her belt back for literally maybe 2.5 minutes. And then here comes Io, here comes Bayley, clearing the ring, taking out Asuka, taking out Charlotte. She wins. We see again, people love a good cash in, and Io Sky is now women's champion again. People love a good cash in, and people love the fact that she now gets the championship because she's had a strong push. She's had a lot of fan support, of course, winning the Women's Money in the Bank match. She comes in now, cashes in on Bianca. I think she's going to have a fun championship reign for the next little bit here, Kyle.
Yeah, I love what they decided to do here. And if we weren't going to get the Money in the Bank cash in the previous stuff with Finn and Seth getting it here in this moment and having it be a believable cash in as well with the injury angle to Bianca and kind of her pulling out the win barely in this one and then having the cash in is exactly kind of the moments that you're looking for here. And yeah, Io Sky 1 year after the return at SummerSlam and the big moment there and all culminating here tonight, I think is a great call in terms of her personal story. And I'm very excited to see what they do here in the future here because you've got a lot of great possibilities, of course, with this triple threat and all three of them not coming away with the belt after tonight. There's a lot of stuff you can do between there. And potentially Bianca trying to get it back, Asuka trying to get it back. There's a lot of great stuff and a lot of different options because it's somebody new at the top of the card here with this belt, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see how they have this one play it out.
No, of course. And I gotta say, the one thing I did enjoy about the cash-in was that finally we didn't have the officials looking confused and with the
Yeah.
continued, are you sure you want
Oh
to cash in? Like,
man.
what do you think you're giving the briefcase for? Like, what do you think is happening? Like,
Yeah.
I
Oh
know
man.
it's stalled, but
Such a pet peeve. Oh yeah.
I cannot stand the officials like asking 18 times what to cash in. Like, just get over with already.
Yeah, we all know what. Yeah, there's 20,000 plus in the stands or whatever. 50,000 tonight
Mm-hmm.
in the arena. And we all know what's going on, except the one person is the one in the stripes. No, I'm glad we didn't have anything.
No, I am certainly glad about that, Kyle. And to wrap things up here, of course, we end with tribal combat for the Universal Championship
Woo!
and for the title of Tribal Chief Jey Uso Roman Reigns. This match came as advertised, violent, tough, emotional. I even loved Paul Heyman with his manipulative ways,
Yeah,
talking about, oh,
yeah, he
that's
was
your
great in
cousin.
this.
You can't do this. How can you do? Like, I just love Paul being the master manipulator, the master of the head game, the manager. I love that when Jay was bringing up the tables, whipping Roman, and then again Roman getting his shots in and just taunting Jay, telling him like, you were kids, I'm beating you down again. Like, I just love how personal, how much this match meant to the Hanoi family. Although I do want to say, I would have loved to have seen. I know we always talk about, and we saw them in the preview video, the elders. You see Afa and Sika. I would have loved to have had to add to Tribal Combat, have the elders come out and observe the match. Have Afa and Sika come out. Have Rikishi come out. I thought that would have been cool if you would
Yeah, that
have
would
had
have been
the
great.
elders ringside watching the match. I thought that would have been something that would have added a little bit more to it. And as we saw when the match, it spilled to the outside. It went into the crowd. We saw Solo getting involved. And for a bit, it looked more like a 2-on-1 match as we saw Solo and Roman beating on Jay for a bit. But again, it was really, I thought it was a true war of, okay, Jay's have to fight everybody to knock off Roman here. But I enjoyed that, though, how it was really Jay trying to go up against all the odds in his family.
Yeah, and it's kind of the typical, right, with the Roman Reigns stuff, and no matter who it is, even if it is the family and stuff, and you know you're gonna get the Solo Sikoa in there. Yeah, I think it was a really good job of kind of balancing the 2-on-1 kind of beatdown and then the comeback as well, where it made you really feel like Jay might have the chance to do it. Yeah, I think they balanced that very well. Obviously, a longer match, by far the longest match of the night, drew on at times, but kind of those select moments when they did kind of pick up the pace and get going, there were some really good spots throughout this match. And yeah, up until that point when they spilled out to the outside and then slowly came back to the ring, some really good stuff where it could have been the typical Solo gets involved, the beat down, throw him back in the ring, 1, 2, 3. But I'm glad it didn't quite go that predictable. I'm glad that they kind of had Jay battle back and really look like he was going to be able to do it in this one.
No, of course. It was a match in which this is one of the few rare match where I didn't expect to see blood between family members. We saw Roman get his arm busted open,
Yeah.
and that added a bit. I know it was busted open the hard way. So yeah, that was interesting to see that being really a first match between the family that saw blood involved in the match. And of course, you mentioned there, Kyle, the time in which it looked like Jay was going to get the pinfall on Roman, and then we get this mysterious hooded man pulling Jay off of Roman. Who could this be? Who could interfere? Jimmy Uso. That was a shock. That was a shock to me. I did not expect, after all that, to see Jimmy be the one to break it up, and then super kicks Jay, throws Jay back in the ring. Roman spears Jay. 1, 2, 3. Roman retains. And now this is going to be interesting because we talk about other matches where I think it's going to go. I really don't know where this is going to go with Jimmy turning on Jay after all that's going on. Now, I've not a clue where they're going with this one, but I'm going to be tuned in though. I'm gonna be tuned into Raw and figure what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, I have no clue either. A huge swerve on that one. Yeah, I did not see the Jimmy involvement coming, especially in this way, where he cost Jay. And you can look to a jealousy angle or a bunch of different stuff, but ultimately, came at a left field, to say the least. In a spot where had him beat, and then literally pulled the rug right out of him. And yeah, the finish was great. Go the table that was set up in the corner, what felt like an hour ago. You knew once they set up a table, it's going to be broken. It's just a matter of when. And yeah, a great spear through the table to finish things off. But yeah, it started as a 1-on-1 and then it became a 2-on-1 and it finished as a 3-on-1 apparently. um which is a typical Roman Reigns thing, but maybe not one that we were expecting tonight. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see what direction they go with in terms of this angle, and what happens with Jay next, what happens with Roman, and kind of the what matchups happen next between the whole bloodline storyline and what happens outside of that as well. Because yeah, it's fascinating to kind of see the explanation that we'll likely get tomorrow. Maybe we'll get a little bit in the press conferences and stuff that's going on right now. But yeah, that was absolutely a stunner, and one that I think we'll kind of have to hear the explanation for on a bunch of different sides before we really kind of get a grasp of where things are going from here.
No, of course. That's funny. With the bloodline, you always think for a second you're gonna reach the end. We've reached the end.
Yeah.
And like, nope, not
every time. It's gotta be now. Oh, okay, maybe next time. Oh no. So.
Right. And it's funny because I saw WrestleMania people were saying, "Oh, this is the end. You know, I'm sick of it." But those same people are saying, "Oh, I guess I'm sorry, I spoke too soon." It's still interesting. Like they're adding layer on top of layer on top of layer to keep it fresh. And really, again, like I thought we knew where the end was gonna go, but now I still don't know how. I mean, I have an idea of what the end is. WrestleMania 40, Roman and Cody. But in between then, I have no idea what's gonna happen in between then and next winter. I really don't.
Yeah, same here. And yeah, a comment in the chat feeling that the swerve felt like it was shocking and just kind of have a shocking end. I definitely agree more to that end than it being kind of this shocking thing for good. It definitely came out of left field in a way that was like, kind of, what are we doing here? But I can definitely see how they make it a jealousy angle, or Jimmy thinking that Jay was trying to take advantage while he was out injured and kind of capitalize on an opportunity. I can see some ways that they can justify this, likely tomorrow night on Raw and into the future. It definitely is something where it's like a bit of that continuation where it's like we're doing this over again, we're keeping the story going. But like you mentioned, we felt like that kind of a bunch of times after some of these matches, and yet they continue to reinvent things or continue to build on the storyline and make it interesting in a bunch of different ways. So it's rare with myself, but I'll give WWE the benefit of the doubt here going into the future because of what they've done with the storyline and how interesting they've made it time and time again. Maybe not the case with a lot of other storylines and things that WWE decides to do, but with this one, they've proven to be right a bunch of times so far, and I'm fascinated to see what they do next, because it is something where it gets very repetitive and these matches kind of have the same feel where you get some fun moments. It looks like the challenger will have their moment and then other people get involved, and then it's 1, 2, 3 and the cycle repeats. We get a little bit of difference here tonight with the swerve and some of the family dynamics and stuff like that. So it keeps you interested in that realm, but you can kind of only go back to that well so many times. And if it is kind of trying to draw it out till next WrestleMania, we'll see what they have planned in the short term. But yeah, I'm very fascinated to kind of see what the explanation is, both through the press conferences and also in the kayfabe stuff into the following weeks and stuff like that, to kind of see where this story goes next.
No, of course, as will I. Wrap things up here on Game Over Pro Wrestling. Kyle, it's been a blast having you on the show. We got to do it again with you. So before I let you go, I want to ask you, this is your time now to plug all your socials, where can the fine people of SDPN find you, buddy?
Yeah, you can find most of my stuff on The Score. I'm a hockey writer over there. So anything in the NHL tab and any of the new stuff and alerts, there's a decent chance that I'm behind that. And then also on Twitter, you can find me at Kyle_Cush, Cush, spelled with a K. You go a very different place, and you can find all of my work there. A lot of prospect stuff on my Twitter, and I have a Substack as well that you can find through my Twitter, where I do a little bit more specifically on the Leaf side of stuff, a bit more of the niche stuff on the prospect side of things. So if you're interested in any of that, you can catch me there. And then a little bit of other stuff on Twitter, of course, a little bit of auto racing if you're interested in that. And then every so often, a handful of tweets on Wednesday nights and such when AEW Dynamite and stuff like that is on. But that's the gist. And yeah, if you're ever interested in anything I'm doing, you can usually find it on Twitter there. So go ahead and follow me there, and you'll be caught up on everything I got going on.
Awesome. Amazing stuff. Kyle, it's been a blast having you on. And hey, for those of you tuning in, of course, please support Game Over. Like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies to tap into all of the Game Over programming that we have all year long from coast to coast. For Kyle Cushman, I'm Avry Lewis-McDougall. We are out. Talk to you guys next time from the Game Over Studios here in Edmonton.